We are live.
Welcome back to Can I Be Honest? Another week. We had a tragedy this week in Detroit, and it played out in some very interesting ways in social media and live feeds and whatnot. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Hakeem Littleton and Detroit Police Department, the protests, all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about the Amy Cooper update. Christian Cooper talking about forgiveness and the topic of, are Black people too forgiving? Are they turning the cheek too often when they should be doing something else? We're also going to introduce a new segment called Found in Translation, where we're going to look at things, statements, a certain statement that people say that gets taken a certain way and people run with it one way, but is that really what they mean? Is that what everybody means? Are there multiple things? So we're going to look at that as far as it relates to the All Lives Matter. We're very happy to be here. My heart feels a little heavy tonight.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Dewan?
Yeah, no. Definitely, this having these discussions are very important. But I think always remembering that, we're talking about real people, real human beings. And, you've had, some officers had to make some really crazy decisions to protect them and their fellow officers. And it's impacted our community in a way where there's a loss from, the family members of the person that's no longer with us. And, we can't see improvements based on, we can't see improvements in the community's relationship with the police. But I'm still hopeful, I'm still optimistic, even with all of the heaviness. I think there are some things that I saw that were positive steps in the right direction. Can't wait to talk about that. Can't wait to hear you guys' perspective. Even though it's heavy, I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. I've been looking forward to having this conversation. And, as usual, we have plenty to talk about, no shortage of subject matters. So we hope that you guys chime in and join us for this conversation. And, there's a number that you guys can call if you guys want to jump on the conversation with us. You can text that number. We'll bring you into the show. And you'll be able to talk about some of these interesting subject matters, heavy subject matters, things that got us, feeling kind of weighty. And again, there's no shortage of things to talk about. Ralph, tell them why.
This is America.
I have a dream.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have a dream.
We have contrasting visions about what America is. What America is.
This is America.
So welcome everybody. I want to take time, if you're on, if you could share it with other people that you think would be interested. We do want to get you guys on the show. So if you are interested in any of these topics, or if there's some other stuff on your heart and mind this week that you want to talk about, we want to get you on, talk about that. We're going to start with Amy Cooper. And Amy Cooper, again, for those of you who don't remember, is the woman who threatened to call the police on a Black male in Central Park in New York.
She actually did call the police.
Yeah, yes, thank you. And she was super emotional. She was there with her dog and really got hysterical and screaming. This Black man or African American man is threatening to harm myself and I think her dog as well. But yeah, and that it was completely in the context of everything else that's going on, in the context of what it has meant for the police to show up under those pretenses, realizing that could be a fatal phone call. And so Dewan, where are we at on that?
Yeah, I think that some of the conversation I saw happen this week was, there was some forgiveness. The gentleman, Mr. Cooper, decided that he was going to forgive, not pursue. I think she issued an apology. He accepted the apology. He decided not to pursue it he didn't want to prosecute her. And I saw a lot of people on social media giving some very strong opinions as to here we go again, Black people being forgiving.
So what's on the table from a prosecution standpoint? What are the options?
You know what? I'm not sure what she was looking at. So, I'm not sure if they're going to pursue it. I think his position was, look, if you guys are going to prosecute her, you have all you need. You don't need me. Go ahead and do it without me, without my participation.
Is that possible?
So it looks like it. I mean, it looks like it'll be a weak case, right? They have the video footage, obviously. I think that this is kind of new territory. I haven't seen a lot of cases like this. I mean, of course, we've all seen people that are losing their jobs, even losing their leases from, making accusations against Black people with the current climate. And people are pursuing it, social media playing its part. And, if you want to call it bringing people to justice, I think it's kind of like evening the playing field a little bit. Of course, there was a time when you could make that type of accusation. And I mean, that time is still, I think we still live in that time. But I think with the video cameras, this kind of changed the outcome of a lot of these situations. So, I guess I have lots of thoughts on these, and I'm going to try to blow through them really quick. Sherry Smith is said what up to us, so I want to make sure I say what up, Sherry Smith. Paul Starr, if you're still there, what's up, bro? Josh Spires, LaCedra, what's up, sis? Maurice Miller, hey, we're talking about Amy Cooper. And
memories here from Japan, man. A Jamaican in Japan. Jamaicans are everywhere on the planet. Like there is no place that they do not infiltrate and make their mark. They have this saying, it's like we lick but we talawa. It's like we're a small country, but we're tough, we're strong, we make our presence known. So wagwan.
So yeah. So where you stand on this, right? I mean, I have some thoughts on this, but the sort of question, I guess, being the consistent question I heard was here we go again, somebody, issuing forgiveness. Why doesn't he pursue it and, press charges and carry it out? Obviously, the thought was this could have been very, very tragic for him, right? Had the police officers responded to the cry, the cry for wolf that Amy Cooper issued, and the threat against him. And I think where she was really going when she made that call. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that Black people are too forgiving when it comes to this stuff?
Oh man.
Be honest.
I think forgiveness and repercussions are two different things. Forgiveness and consequences are two different things, honestly. And so I think forgiveness ends up holding the person who's been offended prisoner more than it does the other person. I do think the repercussions and consequences for actions, people can get those to the fullest extent and still be forgiven. And I don't think those things are against each other or counterintuitive or anything. I think in this particular case, one of the things that you talked about, and one of the things that I think that we're not really seeing in this current cancel culture that we have, is that we don't really see people be able to walk out any type of relational components or healing or any overall reconciliation or any redemption. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of room for redemption. And people do this thing and then they're done. That's it. They lose their job, they lose everything. Nobody wants to see them work ever again. I think you have extreme cases like Harvey Weinstein, where it's dude, I mean, track record, the amount of things in his backlog was just absolutely ridiculous. But then you have other people that like say something or said something like 20 years ago, and now all of a sudden like they can't do this, that, or the other. And I think that's when I look at redemption. To me, we need to take this opportunity where Amy gets hit really, really, really hard by everybody and has this opportunity to kind of really sit and think. She has now two options. She can either like stew in bitterness and kind of like get into a place where her heart gets really hard, but she's a lot more careful in what she says, or where she can actually be opened up to different ideas and be like, and understand like, man, what I did is horrible. But in order to do that, in order to really understand like the components of it, there's got to be some relational things. You mentioned Mike Vick. And so I don't want to, because it's your idea, I don't want to like steal, but I think like that idea, I think makes a lot more sense to me than just, you know, the way that we currently treat people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for forgiveness, right? Like, so a couple things. I'm not somebody that wants to offer quick to offer opinions publicly about somebody else's pain, right? So Mr. Cooper experienced this. He went through this. If he wants to issue forgiveness and he does not want to pursue things, and Ralph let us know that Amy Cooper is facing misdemeanor charges for filing a false report.
Okay.
So before I share all of my thoughts, what up, cuz? I see you. Alan Dan's watching. Sean Smith said what up to us. Don Medley. I see you and Kelly are chiming in. So what's up? I hope y'all have some thoughts on these subjects that we're going to discuss and either jump on with us or send us a comment. But yeah, so what I saw happen with Mike Vick, right, when he was convicted of, you know, the dog fighting ring, and, you know, he served his time, he came home, and like he was still under crazy pressure from PETA. Like they were relentless, and people didn't want him to have his life back.
Right.
I think that, you know, so what ended up happening, in order for him to, I guess, redeem himself in PETA's eyes, they offered him opportunity to prove that he had learned his lesson. Now, you know, I have mixed feelings about that and whatnot, but I think that there's something that we could learn in the Black community from the approach that they took. He ended up going on a speaking tour where he went and talked about like his actions. He talked about the importance of, you know, being humane or treating animals with respect. And they ended up getting a lot of work from Mike Vick, right? And I think that if Amy is sincerely sorry, right? I think that if when people commit these acts against folk, if they really want to prove that that's not the real me, because that's what you hear a lot. I was acting out of character. That's not the real me. If you guys really got a chance to get to know the real me, what I'd like to see is something similar to what Mike Vick went through, right? Like there's a way to say, okay, well, Amy, if you really feel that way, here's some places that you can serve in this community, and we'll take an assessment of you afterwards and say if we believe that you are who we thought you were, or if you are who you say you are, right? So I think that those are some approaches that I'd like to see us implement. Like the cancel culture, I mean, that feels good for a moment, right? But I think that there's a way for us to really teach people, but also, you know, get some work out some folk. You know what I mean? I mean, and even if you, at the end of the day, if Amy Cooper is like this, you know, person that we thought she was, at the end of the day, some, you know, organization, people, somebody in the community probably benefited from some labor from Amy Cooper. So I'm with that approach.
Yeah, I love that idea because I think it gets at multiple things. One, she's like, people become iconic figures in these situations, so they're very recognizable. It gives her opportunity to redeem herself, but before she opens her mouth, when she opens her mouth, people have these certain ideas, and have formed opinions and judgments about her, but can also, some people will relate to her. And I think all of that is important. I think the fact for her to become an advocate, her to like go through get some classes, do some training, that really, and have some relational components built in, as well as then becoming an advocate and be like, look, here's me when I was like dumb as hell. You know what I'm saying? Here's me putting people's lives in danger. Here's what I've done since then, and here's where I'm at now. Like, this is what I realized. And I think that is so much more effective because it has a chance to like do something inside of her, but then also other people that like know where she came from and can hear her like say articulating certain things that she now has come to understand and appreciate because of that she didn't even, you know. Yeah, it's just like I think that's powerful, and I love that. And the cancel culture, none of us stand up to the cancel culture because it's like no one's without blemish. Some people hide it better than others.
Definitely. I'm sure before it's all said and done, I'll say something that should get me canceled. We'll see. Now, if you want to know what I would have done, I would have offered her forgiveness while prosecuting her. Personally, that's what I would have done. Yep. I think that like giving examples of people like, you know, really being penalized for doing that stuff will stop some of the people that, you know, will continue to do that. So I think that, you know, putting people in a position where they have to think twice about it is healthy for us as a society. So those are my thoughts. You know, so if you got thoughts on if Black people are too forgiving, you want to weigh in, if you want to share that, your opinion. I think Dawn obviously has some opinion. She's blowing us up. I think, what did she say? While I appreciate Mr. Cooper forgave her, she jeopardized his life. Too many excuses. She needs to spend time and money fixing it. Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, Dawn, I'm definitely with you. And Kelly's chimed in as well. I agree with you guys. Forgiveness doesn't mean you get off scot-free. So thanks for that. So we have another. So if you guys want to chime in on that, continue to send us messages. We'll get to as many of them as we can. If you got any questions for us regarding this, shoot them over there as well. And if you want to join the conversation yourself, you can text 313-473-0499, and we will get you the link to join us live. So what we got next, Steve? What are we talking about?
We talked about doing segments. We got a found in translation segment, and so it's just there are certain words that we hear or phrases or etc. or that we see, and it doesn't have to necessarily be something that's popular, but just something throughout the week that's happened. We want to look at that people will take a certain way, and maybe a certain set of other people might take a different way. We wanted to look at one phrase this week, all lives matter. And you probably, as soon as I say that, there are probably some visceral responses happening right now on the other side of these screens as to what you like in terms of your feelings, your thoughts, those kind of a visceral response. Like, what is it that you hear when people say that? So we're going to play a short video, and then we're going to digging into a little bit about what we think might be going on the other side of that.
Oak Park youth leading the charge as more than 100 people marched and rallied around the newly repainted Black Lives Matter mural.
We created this mural to cause conversation. The conversation really didn't start until today.
Overnight, a mural designed to spark the Black Lives Matter movement in Oak Park was defaced. Residents waking up this morning to find the words, all lives matter.
If you were brave enough to come out here and come cover this up, you should be brave enough to come be a man and just tell what you did.
That shows that in some ways that isn't true, and we have to do so much more to rectify that.
Village crews power wash the damage done to make way for volunteers to continue the movement they started. And tonight, that mural even more colorful than when it was first painted in June. These chalk drawings and etchings done by rally supporters to echo the larger message painted here. The revolutionary Oak Park Youth Action League that organized tonight's demonstration continued the calls to defund and pull police officers from schools and reinvest in the community.
We are not requesting change anymore, we are demanding it.
The group's message to those who vandalize artists and activists' work: hate has no home here.
Black Lives Matter is not just a movement, it's not just a political statement, but it is just about people.
If you hear Black Lives Matter and immediately your response is to say all lives matter, it says a lot about how you perceive race.
In Oak Park, Kate Kogirin, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC 7 Chicago YouTube channel.
All right, Dewan.
Yeah, you should probably go first on this. I see Tamashian on here. Like, Tamashian broke this down 4 years ago. He made a video. He just recently reposted Tamashian Visionaire Jones. You should check him out, follow him. Very impactful and insightful visionaire himself. But he broke this down 4 years ago, and I still see people using some of the things that he brought up 4 years ago. So, you know, that's part of being a visionaire. Like, you see things first before everybody else do. But go ahead and give your thoughts, man. I'm gonna start with this, and I'll come back after you. Like, what I hear, I'm tired of, if your response is all lives matter to Black Lives Matter at this point, like, just know I'm tired of you. And it takes a lot for me to get tired of people and get tired of, like, hearing that. Like, I'm tired of giving energy to break this down to people. I'm tired of giving energy, like, to this. And I think that people really understand more than they let on. So I think that us, like, explaining this to people understand how to compartmentalize. People understand how to give emphasis. Like, you know, when your leg is broken, you don't work on your arm. You don't put a cast on your arm. So people understand this and they get it. So I am really tired of giving energy to having this conversation. But part of what I'm called to do is have these conversations. So as much as I'm tired of you, I'm still committed to you, and I hope you're still committed to me. And we jacked up. I'm jacked up and you jacked up too. But if you want some all lives matter stuff, we're gonna hopefully try to get you fixed today. Go ahead, Kato, fix them.
Oh, I want to say hey to Uncle Gary, tuning in from Nashville. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate my Uncle Gary in general. He's been very supportive of me, and yeah, I think that's important to have people in your corner. Yeah, the number's down there. If you guys want to call in, Ralph put it down. If you want to chime in on this, how does this make you feel? What are your thoughts? Honestly, I think that there's I think in some ways this has changed over time as things have gotten more clear. I will say, especially in the beginning, I do think the knee-jerk response of all lives matter is. I think some of it's at face value. I think some of it's at not wanting to deal with, you know, it's just like anything else that we do across spectrums, is that we just completely we respond with something completely different. I think that I think that there are people out there who, inside of all lives, include Black lives and recognize them as important. I think my big question is out of this is for people, because we're in a very interesting place in our culture, and I think social media has done a big part to play into this. If somebody believes that or tends toward the slogan that all lives matter, does that eliminate them from being an advocate or being on the team? So I really don't care. Like, honestly, like I think we create these false dichotomies all over the place. And what you say out of your mouth is kind of like, there's a scripture where it's a parable. It's like father asks his son to do something, two sons to do something. One of them's like, yeah, I'll do it. I don't remember if it's sons or servants. I'm a little rusty, honestly. But one guy's like, I'll do it. And, the other one's like, no, I'm like not doing it. The one who said he's going to do it doesn't do it. The one who said he was not going to do it, he did it. And it's like, which one is on the team? Like, which one is the one that's like really, you know, doing what they're supposed to do? And so like, that's the thing, that's my big question on that side is like, look, I honestly don't care. Like because I believe, and I think people that say Black Lives Matter generally believe too, that like all lives actually matter. I think they're drawing emphasis to the fact that like there's a current problem in the US with valuing Black life. I think that's what that's meant to say. But I will say that like the people that genuinely believe that like all lives matter, if they are doing activist work, whether that's showing up at protests, whether that's writing their Congress, whether it's working to like do anything across like the broad spectrum of what it means to do systematic change or an individual change, like work on the heart and mind of people in their lives, like does that, the fact that they're not a big BLM champion, does that like take them off the squad? Is that a deal breaker? I think on the other side, the question that I have is that, like, I think there are some people that are, and I think a great example of this is Colin Kaepernick. I think that there are people happy to get caught up on semantics and happy to get caught up on something that they can like really gravitate to miss the point of like what's actually happening. And I think that this for some people is an opportunity to do that. So, and they tie that into an organization that is fraught with very interesting and challenging statements, and we'll talk about that more in a future episode. It's a lot to unpack there, but you know, they're very happy to get caught up on this, like you know, well, you're saying Black lives above other lives and so on and so forth, so that they can feel justified in not talking about, thinking about, dealing with the change that needs to happen in this country. And so I think that that's kind of like part of the spectrum that I look at, and then I think there's people in between. So yeah, it's my 8 cents right there.
That's good. That's good. So Kelly and Don are on the wild in the comment section. I think the funniest thing I've seen is Don said they can be on the team, but they're gonna be on the squad, but they're not in the starting five. Yeah. So
and my question to like, what's the talent level though? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they got more juice to get stuff done than other people that you're gonna put on the starting five because they won't do anything. Like half the people. Like, we got so many keyboard activists, it is absolutely bonkers. Like, you know what I'm saying? People that say they're doing stuff, like people that act like they're doing stuff. So, like a phrase doesn't faze me. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think Sherry just dropped some gold on us and said it's only when Black people advocate for rights to other people say no focus on everyone, right? And I think, you know, that's the meat of what she's saying. And I think, So this segment, if you just chimed on, we're doing a segment called Found in Translation, right? So like, and basically that's when you hear something said, what do you hear? Like when somebody says all lives matter, for instance, what are you hearing, right? So I'll say this, when I hear someone say all lives matter, it's similar to what Sherry's saying, right? I hear them saying, look, I don't want you advocating for yourself. I don't want you saying that you're upset with police brutality, right? I don't want to hear you guys talking about that. If you're not going to do something that's universal, it's going to include me and include everybody else, really, but really include me. Like, I don't want you doing that. That upsets me. That makes me uncomfortable when I hear you say that. So I need you to stop it. I'm willing to give energy to this, to making you stop it. I'm not willing to give energy to helping you combat police brutality, but I am willing to give energy and make my voice heard to get you to stop saying Black Lives Matter. I will show up with a sign that says all lives matter. I'll get a t-shirt printed that says all lives matter, right? I'm not going to give in. So that's what I hear when I hear people saying all lives matter. And nobody's ever said, you haven't heard people say that other lives don't matter. That's not what people are saying. So So if you hear me say Black Lives Matter, or if you catch me outside with this shirt on, right? Like, I'm not saying that other lives don't matter, right? Like if somebody's doing something like harmful to you, your community, I will stand with you. I definitely will not come against you if you are being an advocate for your own plight. And I'll give one of my favorite quotes again. I know I've said it, I use the heck out of it, but you know, James Brown said, look, like we're saying, ouch. You hit us and we said, ouch. And now you're mad because we said, ouch. It's like, are you serious? Like you're going to come against me for screaming, this hurts, right? So that's what I hear when I hear people saying all lives matter. And there's so much work to do to like spend energy and time trying to say, look, we should be able to be advocates against police brutality without catching backlash from decent people, from good people, from people that like work on like work in the mission field with me, right? I should not have to spend energy and time like explaining myself to you when I say that Black Lives Matter, right? So that's kind of like, you know, the frustration behind some of like where I feel what I feel about this subject matter. Yeah, so that's it. If anybody else got any thoughts, please share them in the comments. If you want to jump on, we're getting ready to transition to another subject that's going to be weighty. It's going to be heavy, but if you really feel passionate about this one, you know, we'll give you a moment to text that number, jump on before we pivot and change directions. Ralph, do we have anybody in the waiting room? If not, you know, you have had. Matter of fact, we will give you a moment. I'll read Tamashian's thoughts on it. Tamashian says, "What makes people think it's easy for us to fight for equality when people get upset when we simply say we matter?" Right? Yeah, simple question, right? Like it's challenging enough, but when we have other people sprouting up to give more energy, and they're not even against us, right? They don't even see themselves as against us, right? It's frustrating. It's a very heavy lift. Wanzel, what's up? Good to see you on here. Deidre, what up, Doe? How them grad babies doing? All right.
Yeah, and I think we're at a place where you're not even, there's certain things you just know you're not allowed to say, which is fine. You know, it is what it is. That I'm just saying I'm much more concerned about advocacy than I am like you getting on board with a particular phrase. That's how I look at it. Like I really don't care. I think the people that are quick to, and I think the people that are probably in the middle are probably people that aren't saying a whole lot. I think the people that are quick to paint over stuff or whatnot, like they're clearly on a far end of the spectrum. I'm more, I think there's a lot of nuance though as well.
Agreed, but I think I have zero problem with somebody that's not comfortable saying Black Lives Matter, right? Zero problem. But if you're going to say, stop saying Black Lives Matter and say all lives matter, then I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? It's like that, you know, that's what I have a problem. Like if you don't feel comfortable saying that, no, I'm not saying say that. Like you don't have to, but just, you know, yeah. Let's talk to a friend before you publicly come and try to, you know, do the all lives matter thing. Find one of your friends that can help you process that. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, you want to set this one up? We're going to go to a place that's, you know, I'm sure we've all had discussions about if you're in the Detroit area. So we had a police shooting Thursday on the west side of Detroit, San Juan and 6 Mile. Detroit Police Department was making an arrest, and there they were making an arrest on somebody that was, I guess, was a suspect in a shooting that happened on the 4th of July where multiple people were killed. I believe 3 people were killed and 5 other people were injured. And when they showed up to make the arrest, there was, several police officers showed up, multiple cars, and they had the one person, like they were in the process of putting him in custody, and another gentleman, Hakeem Littleton, started to basically ended up trying to shoot at the police, actually shot at the police, not trying to, shooting at the police, and the police officers returned fire, and, ended up killing Hakeem Littleton. And there was, response from DPD where Chief Craig came out with and gave a press conference really shortly after the incident happened. There was some conflicting reports early on where people were saying that there were people present that said that he never had a weapon, never shot at the police. So, we've had protests going on pretty much since the George Floyd incident, since the day after Memorial Day in the city of Detroit. There were a couple days that the protesters have taken off, and they've been doing an amazing job, in my opinion, of keeping the pressure on us for us to not go back to where we ignore some of the issues that we have with the way that inner city communities are policed. So, I want to say, like, hats off to them for their faithfulness on this journey. Well, I think that they got word of what happened, and I think that they didn't get, an honest, version of what actually happened. And there was a bunch of emotions. There was some family members of the person that was killed during the shooting that were there, visibly, obviously upset. And, the relationship between the police and, the Black community is not where it needs to be for, some real serious reasons. I mean, there's a history there, and I won't sugarcoat that history. It's not, my relationship, and you probably heard me say this before, my relationship with the police officers, there's a 46-year-old man that drives a pickup truck with gray hair in my beard, with the bike rack on the pickup truck is a lot different than my relationship and my interactions with the police was when I was 15-year-old, Black kid that fit, the description of a suspect, right? So my interactions were terrible. Like, I hated to see the police coming. I've had my share of stories, and I'm not going to relive those traumatic experiences to prove that to anybody tonight. Maybe I will another time. But there's a history there, right? But I think what we witnessed happen was the video footage ended up coming out later on Thursday night, really quickly.
It was crazy. It was like within a few hours.
Within a few hours, I think 12 o'clock was. When I heard about it, 7:30, they were holding a press conference showing the video footage frame by frame and discussing it. And, the video footage is what it is. I mean, the officers were defending themselves, in my opinion, from what I saw. And, we are where we find ourselves at. I still want to be sensitive to the family. I still want to be sensitive to the police officers that were put in that situation. But, this is the Can I Be Honest show. So, we'll share some of our thoughts, some of our concerns with the way that some of the interactions went. And then hopefully we'll hear from you guys as well. So, Steve, you want to share where you were at and how you processed some of this?
Yeah, I had 2 major concerns. One is the way we process information. And we need to make a decision. We need to have a side and have a strong opinion, and then shoot it out to everybody in the world, right now. As soon as I know of something happening, I need to with a bunch of gaps, with a bunch of holes, those get filled in so easily. And also with having you know, part of the thing that made this really dangerous, because I saw it. There was a live stream that I saw, somebody in my timeline, and I clicked on. It took me a second to figure out what was going on, but she was up there, and then I saw another live stream of Fox. I think it was Fox, one of the news stations. That somebody was up there, kind of narrating what was happening. But what I had heard is that like they killed an unarmed suspect, and like there was just this rising sense of tension. They said they shot him 15 times, and he wasn't even the person that they came for. Now, there's one thing that was true in there, is that he wasn't even the person. But like that one piece of information is actually kind of misleading given what actually happens. So when I'm watching things ratchet up. The police, because of what's happening with the crowd, the police comes out in their gear. They got their shields and whatnot. People start throwing bottles at them. People start throwing things and whatnot. And yeah, I think the level of tension, which in some ways make like we're already at a tense place, but I think even it's just important to kind of like pump the brakes sometimes and kind of figure out what's happening. I do appreciate the protesters. I do. I think you bring out a point, and other people have said this, the presence of the protesters and the fact that Detroit Will Breathe specifically, like their group has the agility to transfer like where they were going to be to here, because they hear of information and has the ability to communicate that at scale, really puts the pressure on for Chief Craig to like come out and release the footage like so quick. What was also interesting to me is the police actually ended up backing away. Like they ended up leaving, like in their, with their gear and everything. And the crowd was hostile. So I was surprised by that. Yeah, so that's my first thing. I'll get into the second one. I don't know if there's anything you want to jump in.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people jumped on. Lauren Hood, Quan Nellums, Teresa Singleton, Monique Anderson, Tori Beatty. So and Rod Wallace. If you guys want to jump on, there's a way that you can join this conversation by texting 313-473-0499. Just text the question or comment that you have, and we'll bring you on live if you desire to participate in this conversation with us. So I had lots of concerns. One of the biggest concerns that I have is that there were some people there early on that were talking about and encouraging people to commit violent acts against the police officers.
And one of them was they were closely connected, right?
Yeah. But before that, I'll say this. I somewhat give a direct family member a pass. And I think that even the police officers that heard that would give them a pass in the moment, right? It's like, okay, they're dealing with a lot. Chief Craig is, he's seen a lot of things in his experience. So I'm sure that, he knows how to compartmentalize and process information for what, or that type of stuff for what it is. There were people talking, like saying some really, really crazy stuff. And in my opinion, when I looked at the people that were saying it, I'm like, if you're going to do some of the stuff that you're saying, you wouldn't be out there talking about it. But there are people that are hearing them, right, that they may have somewhat of an impression upon, and they may end up acting on some of the stuff that person is saying. And they're encouraging people to do some damnable stuff to police. And that really concerns me. I really don't appreciate that. When you have a crowd of people there, I mean, I saw folks' moms there, I saw kids there and whatnot. If you make a decision to escalate things and it's you and some other people that are in agreement with exactly where you're at, then cool. Like whatever happens, you committed to that level, that's it. And I say that as somebody that, like, if I'm really passionate, I really believe in something, like I'm willing to go to whatever extreme and whatever levels I need to go to. And that's just the way I move. But I will not put other people in compromised situations that aren't there with me, right? As far as like that level of commitment. There are a lot of people there who was trying to get information, trying to figure out what was going on, or to protest, or to voice their concerns, or to cuss some police officers out. But if you escalate things and you set it off, and it gets the popping in a real negative way, like all of those people are in jeopardy, right? So
Police and the crowd.
The police and the crowd. And that's what I have a concern about. That's the thing that, you know, that's the thing that I'm really concerned about. I really think that, especially people with big voices and in a leadership position, I would love to see them take that into consideration before they become real vocal with a mixed crowd of people and you're not sure where everybody is. So that's one of the things that troubled me. I was also troubled. I mean, I know some people that work in that area. I know some people that live in that area. I mean, I have some family that lives, you know, a stone's throw from where that happened at. But I know that, you know, that's the Live 6 area. You know, a Leadership Detroit classmate of mine, Kelly and Bonds, you know, was committed, putting in a lot of work over there. At the organization that I head, Black Leaders Detroit, we just made some financial investments into some businesses by, you know, donating some grants to some of the business owners right there, a couple blocks away from where this took place at. So, you know, that's a real community with real people, and they're dealing with this. So I want to be sensitive to that even while we are having this conversation. This is real life situation for people. And, you know, I reached out to the brother that we know that works over there. And, you know, he wasn't even in a position to really talk. We texted back and forth. I just let him know that I was praying for him and the community. But one thing that I do want to point out is that as we give, like, you know, the police department credit for, you know, sharing that video quicker than any of us are accustomed to seeing police share that type of video, I definitely want to acknowledge that, you know, what you're pointing to, like that, in my opinion, comes from the pressure that's been applied, partially at least, right? Or maybe, you know, the lion's share of the credit should go to protesters, right? I think without that type of pressure, I don't know if we get that footage out that fast. I haven't seen it necessarily done before. You know, I will say that Chief Craig is consistent with, you know, being quick to address the public and give, you know, a press conference. But sharing that video and that type of transparency, I think that, you know, I definitely want to acknowledge that. I think that has a lot to do with that. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. I think the turn on social media is what I like. You know, I think people were kind of wild on the front end before we really knew anything. I think one of the things I was really disappointed, and this is some of the same people and it was some different people too, was just like very matter of fact, very dry. You shoot at the police, what do you expect to happen? Like, this is like the end result of, like, you know, criminal activity, like multiple posts. And it's not that I expect something different to happen. I mean, he was point blank, like the officer. I mean, like officers coming up on him as he pulls the gun out and just misses his face. I mean, the guy was so close to like not going home that evening. Just on a simple and the guy that they actually came after, I mean, he complied, took him to the ground. You know, that was over, like that was wrapped in a second. I think our ability to respond in a way that's so calloused and so hardened and just like, yeah, you're a criminal. You got, you know, it's like he deserved it. Good job, police. Like I do think the police, from my perspective, I think they did what they were trained to do. And I think when you have somebody shooting at you from point blank range, I don't see another outcome. in this. I think the way that the tone at which we talk about this kind of stuff and the lack of sanctity around human life for Hakeem and recognizing like he's somebody's brother, cousin, nephew, son. I think we have a problem. I think we have a real problem in this country of the way that we think about life and how flippantly we act and how disconnected I am personally from you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if it doesn't touch my family, or if there's certain triggers that I can, that like something inside me completely shuts down, like as far as like from an empathetic standpoint, from a love, from a compassion standpoint, I'm like, damn, like this guy, you know, this 20-year-old dude, 20 years old, just barely an adult. You know, what happened in his life and what do we need to do to create a different environment and different world for him to make a different set of decisions and to end up in a different place. And for the next Hakeem, you know, I think that's where, and I saw a little bit, I saw like a small fraction of people post something similar to that this kind of points to some of the brokenness. But yeah, like that's, I'm very disappointed. And I think, and I keep coming back to that across the board as I look at stuff. Like that's my overarching disappointment with where the US is right now is our ability to be so damn callous about human life across the board. It's crazy. And it's super dangerous. It is really, really dangerous. Really, I think we're in a very, very dangerous place in the U.S.
Yeah. No, definitely. Sherry Smith, I wanted to point something out based on, I think what you said earlier about the police leaving after, you know, protesters were hurling stuff, chanting stuff towards them. What Sherry said was the police did not leave before arresting multiple protesters and putting people in chokeholds. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I think she wanted to just make sure the record was clear on that. You know, I'm not sure like exactly how many people. I'm not sure exactly what happened with those protesters. I watched a part of the protest yesterday through one of my friends' Facebook Live feed, and I didn't see that part. I'm not, you know, I have no doubt that if Sherry said it, that, you know, it actually happened. But I'm also not sure, like, you know, what was the cause, what was folks doing. So I think that she just wanted to set the record straight on that actually happened last night as well. So yeah. So here we are again, right? I mean, still having conversations. And I think that we need a villain, right? Like we need a villain so bad. Like we want to have a villain and we want to have a hero. And I think the way we often see ourselves is the hero. And I think that we're all just as complicated at the end of the day. And we don't want to believe it, but I think that we're all, you know, just as complicated as Hakeem is, right? We're all just as complicated at our core as the police department is, and whatnot. And if we have evolved to where we're not, most likely it's because we've done some of the necessary work to change within ourselves. And if I'm, you know, honest and able to have given myself some grace and some hope, and some folks prayed for me, right? And has been patient with me while I've stretched and grown and become, you know, a better person. You know, I think that, you know, Hakeem doesn't have the opportunity to do that. But if, you know, we would have seen some of us at 20 and before 20, right? Probably would have. I'll say this about myself, right? And there were family members in my family that was betting that I wouldn't make it to 18 once upon a time. You know, thank God that they were false prophets, right? I thank God they were false prophets. But, you know, there is, like, if there was hope for me and I end up being, you know, a halfway decent person, then there's hope for, halfway, right? Still got a lot of work to do. If we're going to be honest, let's be honest, right? Still have a lot of work to do. But, you know, there's hope for, you know, those other folks that are out there. And, you know, there's hope for the police officers. Now, at me, blow me up, you know, give me, leave comments and disagree with me. I know that most of the people watching right now can't do that because y'all like me too much. But I'm willing to have like that conversation, right? And it's like I said, I'm somebody that's had my share of negative experiences with police officers, but I do know that there are some real dope police officers that work on the force that care just as much about Hakeem's as some of us do, right? It's like, you know, I've had a police officer that's a friend of mine. He's not even in the force anymore. I used to have a spot where I had a transition house that was targeted towards, you know, reaching young men that wanted to stop selling drugs. And we used to house them, have daily prayer and Bible study with them. And there was a police officer that didn't want to arrest this one young man. He saw him going down the wrong path. And he was like, man, can I bring him over here? And would you spend some time with him? Would you talk to him and mentor him? Right? It's like, that's a police officer that worked for the Detroit Police Department. He cared about that young man to the point where he had just cause to arrest him, but he didn't want that to be his outcome. Right? So if you think that this is not a complicated conversation, if you don't think that this is nuanced, we disagree there. You know, so I've seen both sides enough to believe that, you know, there's a lot of work to do and some real jacked up stuff that happens within the Detroit Police Department, but also I've seen some real live stuff to believe that there's like cause for, like, definitely cause for hope within that same police department. I can just speak about the Detroit Police Department. I can't speak about all of it, and we can go into the history of, you know, how our police system was formed and all of that. And I'm open to having those conversations. But I will digress and invite you guys to jump on these last couple minutes. If you have a comment that you want to share, obviously the comment section is there. If you want to jump on these last 2 minutes and go live and share a question or comment, your perspective, you can do that right now by texting 313-473-0499. Everybody's shy tonight. Y'all probably got them Corona hairdos going on, so y'all don't want to jump on. So y'all don't have to worry about that. Steve don't have to worry about that. He just rock his cap every time. But you know, the comment section, or you can jump on. But you got 2 minutes, and Ralph ain't gonna let you on. So Sherry Smith says I appreciate you gentlemen presenting this dialogue. We appreciate you, Sherry, for jumping on, and everybody else that's joined us. Kevin Harris, you got to jump on earlier. I know that you have lots of insight into this discussion in particular. Kevin Harris, dynamic brother that you know, is walking this thing out. He's another brother that would talk about, you know, people not believing that he was worth hoping for, and now that brother's doing some amazing stuff. You know, leading a church, guiding men that have come home from being incarcerated, setting up a space where they can come and serve, be empowered, impact the community in a positive way.
Need more of that stuff. Aunt Wafa, thank you for your comments. Anthony Smith, again, it's a lot of comments. Thank you, Kelly and Tamashian. Yeah, I think if we don't figure this part out, if we don't figure out how to value life across the board, how to love each other well, in spite of our differences, we're not gonna. We're on some very thin ice right now, and we are in a perfect storm right now in the U.S. for things to really get crazy. We don't start doing some real work internally. We don't start doing some work to connect with others and to be a catalyst for change, for love, compassion, for like empathy. Yeah, we're in rough shape. So, heart goes out to Hakeem's family, and I'm sure those police officers. Actually, a girl I went to Michigan State with, her. I think it was her. She had somebody related to the police officer that almost got his face blown off. I'm sure, like he had quite the things to think about that evening. Everybody involved. I just, my heart goes out. So.
All right. Well, with that, man, pray for us, pray for the Hakeem family, pray for the city. And find a way to get involved, find a way to get involved and continue to press towards the change that we all need to see. That's what we got for you today. We love y'all. Thanks for the comments. Sherry Smith, you got to come on earlier next time. She said she's pretty sure her comment would have been more than a few minutes. You gotta just jump on.
All right with that.
Jump out here. Yeah, we cool. You just gotta jump on earlier. It's all good.
Plus, Ralph can mute you if he thinks you're going too long.
Yeah. We got a way to kick you out, Sherry. If you start trying to jack the show and take over the show. Thank you, dog. So Dig, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I'm long-winded, and I'd love to keep talking to y'all. But we said we were gonna respect everybody's time and keep the show to an hour. We're already 2 minutes past that. So, you got any final words, Steve?
That's it, man.
All right, love y'all. Ralph, take us home.
This is America.
I have a dream.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have a dream.
We have contrasting visions about what America is.
This is America.